A very good evening to one and all. Thank you for joining our very first webinar, Transforming Lives. I'm Archana Sahai. I head the CSR for Dell Technologies India, and I'll be your host for the evening. We all have been witnessing how innovation and technologies are transforming the way organizations and governments are working together. Tech for social good is no longer a new lingo, as both parties are leveraging technology to develop creative solutions that address some of our toughest real world problems. With the help of technology, students are able to learn the concepts with clarity. Today, online courses have not only increased the access to education, but also bridged the gap of quality levels among countries. Dell has always believed in harnessing the power of technology for the greater good of human progress. With our continued partnership with Niti Aayog, Atal Innovation Mission, we aim to make a difference in the world through a technology led approach, balancing social inclusion, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Let's have a beautiful video that captures the partnership between Dell Technologies and Niti Aayog. Can we have the AV, please?
Social impact happens when intent meets innovation.
In 5th standard, I didn't like school at all. When some motivation programs came to my school, then I started enjoying the schooling. My school received a Dell laptop. Then I started and created some animations which I liked so much. So that day I decided to become an engineer.
ನಮ್ಮ ಶಾಲೆಗೆ ಡೆಲ್ ಕಂಪ್ನಿಯಿಂದ ಒಂದು ಲ್ಯಾಪ್ಟಾಪ್ನ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅದರಿಂದ ನಮಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಶಾಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅನೇಕ ಬದಲಾವಣೆಗಳಾಗಿದೆ. ಮತ್ತು ಹಾಗೆಯೇ ನಾನು ಕೆಲವು ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಕ್ಲಿಪ್ಸ್ಗಳನ್ನ ತೋರಿಸಿ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಪಾಠನ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಆ ಪಾಠಗಳನ್ನು ನಾವು ಹಾಗೆ ಹೇಳೋದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಕ್ಲಿಪ್ಸ್ನ ತೋರಿಸಿ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಪಾಠನ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಡೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಕಲಿಕೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬಹಳ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಮತ್ತು ಎಲ್ಲ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ಗಳಿಗೂ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ.
The Atal Innovation Mission is a flagship initiative. It's a national initiative. In this, we are setting up thousands of Atal Tinkering Labs across the country, where these are dedicated innovation workspaces where the latest of technologies like 3D printers, robotics, IoT devices, miniaturized electronics, augmented virtual reality are being made available to young students who can innovate with them, tinker with them, and create solutions for problems in their community.
I'm basically from a farmer's background. In our day-to-day life, we see what are the struggles and day-to-day problems of our farmers. So we have actually come up with an idea called Smart Irrigation System, which can automatically irrigate the land. By using IoT, it can help the farmers better. At our initial stages, we are guided by 2 mentors from Dell, and when we don't know nothing, they trained us, they helped us while doing this project.
I want to thank Dell for bringing in a strong partnership and introducing them into the world of innovation and solving problems.
Social progress happens when innovation keeps serving intent. Dell, committed to impact.
Without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our very esteemed speakers for today's webinar. Mr. Alok Ori is the President and Managing Director of Dell Technologies India. He has been closely and very passionately involved and has supported all the CSR initiatives in association with Niti Aayog over the years. Mr. Ori will be joined by Mr. Ramanan, who is the Mission Director of Atal Innovation Mission, a flagship national innovation initiative of the Prime Minister and the Government of India under the Niti Aayog. In today's webinar, our speakers will engage in conversation around developments in the industry led by innovative technologies and the future of workforce, the partnership and what we intend to achieve in the upcoming years. This will be followed by a 10 minutes of Q&A session. Audience, you'll be free to direct your questions to any of our speakers. Take it away, gentlemen. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Archana. Very good evening, everybody. And thanks for setting the context, Archana, for an engaging discussion today. I'd also like to welcome Ramanan in collaborating and partnering with us for this webinar today. Thank you very much for taking time out, Ramanan. I know you are keeping extremely busy in these very unusual times, and I really appreciate you joining hands with us to really have an engaging conversation today. Let's get the ball rolling, Ramanan. Let me begin by asking you a question that is very close to your heart. I know for sure. I've engaged with you on this topic many times in the past, and I've seen some of the inputs, and I've also heard some of the work that you have done in this area. And I found that to be extremely thought-provoking. So let me begin by asking you the very first question. Raman, what do you think is actually required as a skill sets for creating and developing a very vibrant, future-ready workforce? From your background, from what you've done so far, any perspective, any inputs that you can provide?
Great. Thank you, Alok, for this wonderful webinar. It's a very important webinar, and it's a very important from an audience point of view, because it is touching on a subject that is very important to all the people who are on the call and much beyond. But first of all, a good evening to everybody, and I hope everyone is safe during this very difficult times, and everyone is practicing the necessary safeguards for COVID has been advocated by the government or by the Ministry of Health. Alok, you asked a question which is very important in today's context. What are the skill sets that are so important from a future-ready workforce? And we are living in a world that has changed dramatically over the last several years. In fact, this particular conversation that we are having today on an online webinar with all the people connected online is something that we could not have dreamt about 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Technology was still developing at that time. And while technology was advancing fast, today we are in a world where such possibilities exist because technology has become very advanced, it has become available, it has become affordable, and it has become accessible. And digital transformation is the in thing that is happening. But what has also happened as a result of this technology evolution is that connectivity across the globe has increased. Global economy has become possible. Supply chain management systems like Dell, for example, manufactures somewhere, assembles it somewhere else, delivers it somewhere else. All of these things have become possible because of latest technologies. And this has called for new skills that have to be developed to deal with in the current century. So when we were studying at the school, it was very important for us to get good marks, get into a good university, get again good marks, go to a university abroad, and then get good marks and join a company like Dell or IBM or TCS. I joined TCS, you joined Dell, and we all were used to a job-seeking world where we use the skills that we have learned and apply it. But now we are in a completely different world where the world is advanced, technology is advanced, connectivity is advanced, and the demand for innovation and entrepreneurial thinking is very important. And if you take that into consideration, there are some skills, 21st century skills, which are very important. One, do you have a problem-solving mindset? Instead of just saying, I want to learn and understand everything and be able to answer an examination, are you able to use the information that you have learned from your class, whether it is physics, chemistry, maths, biology, and translate it to a problem-solving capability and innovative thinking? Second is for this, you need curiosity. There is tremendous curiosity required, but the curiosity has to be converted into creativity. So being creative, thinking laterally, identifying problems, and trying to be a solution to a problem and being a problem solver is very important. Now, that calls for some other skills. You need to be abreast of the latest technologies that are there in the marketplace. If you don't know the technologies, almost every solution that you see, today you have mobile phones, you have the internet, you have laptop, you have IoT, you have 3D printing, you have communication and miniaturized electronics, you have augmented virtual reality. these are all affordable technologies today. So you should know the basics of these technologies, and there are do-it-yourself kits with which you can play with, you can tinker with, and can create solutions. So that is very important, the knowledge of technology. Fourth is collaboration. How do you collaborate between different teams? Because today, innovation is no longer only one person's idea, and a product doesn't come out just out of one person. You have to have a team. You have to have a team of different capabilities. Some person will have the design capability, somebody will have the conceptual capability, somebody will have the technical capability, somebody will have the leadership capability of driving everybody together. Somebody will have the communication capability, because you need good communication skills to say what is the problem you are solving. So these are all very important skills. Then the other thing is, you need to be able to have access to data, and you should have judgment and decision making skills. This is very important. Having a decision making skill is very important. Another skill which is very important is empathy. I mean, we are talking of some skills like technology and communication and so on, but empathy is what is going to help you understand what problems are there to be solved and how to solve them. So these are all many skills, and in fact, Atal Tinkering Labs, along with Dell Technologies, and we are very, very fortunate to have you as a partner, where we are introducing all of this skills so that the learning is becoming simpler, the absorption of that learning and translating it into potential problem solving and becoming innovators is all becoming feasible. And everybody, every young student should aspire to become an innovator and an entrepreneur, because from his very birth, he is an innovator. He or she is an innovator. The other important thing in this is diversity, and gender diversity is very important. How do you work with a diverse team, not only from a gender diversity point of view, but even from different states, different cities, different countries? Because the more diverse your thinking is, the better the quality of your innovation. So I think these are some of the very important points. I'd like to ask you, Alok, how do you use technology driving the educational sector? You are one of the leading IT companies, and you must be seeing the impact of IT everywhere. How do you see technology transforming the educational sector?
Oh, that's a great question, and a part of that has already been covered by you, but I'll try and put my 2 cents to it and see how I can build on what you just mentioned. Let me begin by saying that when it comes to education, from time immemorial, it has been in the evolution, in the state of evolution. Starting from gurukuls in the ancient times in Indian context to today's modern education institutes, schools, and colleges, it's been in a state of evolution all through. You really look at what's going on. There are two parts to the education sector. On one hand, we clearly are seeing a very different approach to education coming in, because there is a need for a much richer content. There is a need for a different type of curriculum to be adopted to really prepare the students for future, the so-called future workforce. So that's, on one hand, that's really important. That's really playing a very big role. On the other hand, look at what happened because of the current pandemic. About 1.3 to 1.5 billion students are completely disrupted with regards to their education in the classroom. Many of these students have now been asked to get onto online to really go through the education that they first embraced. It's also a fact that in India, while there are 1.5 million schools, there are only about 300 to 335 million students that are enrolled in these schools. If you look at our demographics lends itself to have at least 500 million or more students to be there in the education system. There's a huge gap. Now, when it comes to technology, as you rightly pointed out, the advancements, the development of the technology has grown at a very rapid pace. And what that has done is that it has created new possibilities of bringing education at a very cost-effective rate to many more worthy students. And also it has helped our education system to bridge the gap that has existed for all of these years between haves and have-nots. Frankly speaking, if technology is adopted in a much bigger, larger scale, we will see a definite movement of the quality of the education upwards. We will see a whole lot of richer content getting delivered, and this scarcity of teaching staff that exists across all kinds of schools, all kinds of educational institutes can also be addressed. You step back and look at what all the technology can do, clearly starting from e-learning, which is online learning, which is the need of the hour today in this pandemic scenario, and I'm sure it is going to transform the way education gets delivered over the next few decades, to actually getting a whole lot of stuff done on the cloud, to a whole lot of other technologies that you talked about, VR, AR, mixed reality. All of that is going to really enable a whole lot of education that can be delivered to many more students in the country. I'd also like to add at this moment that, look, you touched upon a very important point. As kids, as children, we grew up in the environment of being curious. We were always very curious about everything. So way back in 2016, when this conversation was taking place in Niti Aayog, and we in some form and shape got involved in that discussion, we realized that when it comes to education and when it comes to really imparting the right level of environment for our students, it will be important for us to be partnering with you, with Niti Aayog, in building something that can help continue to keep the fires burning amongst the students about curiosity, and in turn really create very innovative solutions for the complex problems that exist within our community, within the country, within the nation as well. We are absolutely pleased and delighted that all of these years, our partnership with you, collaboration with you, has really helped us reach out to many students across the country. In fact, today, we take pride in saying that we are supporting almost like 146 Atal Tinkering Labs, which is the biggest initiative under the Atal Innovation Mission that you folks are driving. It has reached many, many students. It has helped many of the younger kids to really keep their innovation instincts very high. And in the process, we have been able to develop a whole lot of new ideas, whole lot of new areas that these students can go and help find a solution for. One such initiative that we have taken along with you, which is Student Entrepreneurship Program, is a classic example of what we have been able to achieve together. Under that program, as we have been pushing, we are wanting our students to come up with innovative ideas that could help solve the problems in the community that they live. And quite honestly, we are absolutely delighted that we have been able to extend that to now student internship program. So having selected some of the teams that have come up with some very amazing ideas, very innovative thoughts that they've come up with, we have been able to shortlist 6 teams that we are taking through internship, 10-month-long internship within our company. The interesting part is that these teams comprises of students that are anywhere from grade 6 to grade 12. So these are really young minds, really sharp thoughts that they're trying to bring to life in terms of the innovation that can help their communities. We're absolutely pleased and delighted that we have this collaboration and partnership going. And I'm sure with more and more technology entering the education segment, we will see the reach of education going much beyond the current numbers that we currently see in the country. And hopefully that will help. But one thing that really comes to my mind, Ramanan, is the mindset of the students. What do you think needs to be done to change the mindset of these students to embrace technology and in the process build an entrepreneurship mindset, which is where I think the crux of the entire initiative lies from an Atal Innovation Mission?
Yeah, thanks, Alok. And I think you very beautifully brought out the importance of technology in transforming the world today and how the educational sector is benefiting because of that. And also you touched base on many of the things that Dell and Atal Innovation Mission have been doing together. And I'm very grateful to Dell for partnering on multiple ways. 146 Atal Tinkering Labs is something that you have adopted, but beyond that, the student entrepreneurship program, the student innovation programs, internships, and also the gaming development platform, which we will probably talk about a little later. These are all very, very strong things that go towards creating an innovative mindset in our young students. Now, why is entrepreneurship so important? You asked a very important question. How do you enable the young children to acquire an entrepreneurial mindset? Before I answer that, I want to answer the question, why is an entrepreneurial mindset so important to us, all of us, not just young students, but also to all the people who are in the industry? Because we are a country of 1.3 billion people. We have 733 districts in our country, out of which 115 of them are aspirational districts in our country, which means they are still struggling with 1 in 5 maternal mortality, 1 in 3 infant stunting. There is no lack of access to clean drinking water and sanitation. 22% of our country is still below the poverty line. 44% of our country is agri-economy based. So these are all major challenges. Our country is diverse. It is spread across multiple districts, and there are only 8 tier 1 cities. And the rest, we have identified 100 smart cities, but they can only become smart if they also become hubs of innovation and entrepreneurship. And we have 150 million young students who are going to be entering into the workplace over the next 5 to 10 years. And these are from the 1.4 million schools that you talked about, as well as the 10,500 engineering institutions, and we have 39,000 colleges. So it's a huge plus, and it is a huge challenge. The plus is that we have what is known as the demographic dividend. And this demographic dividend is the envy of many countries across the world, because we have a youthful workforce. And this energy which is there in the youth, the capability which is there, no other country has. But how do we harness it, and how do we channelize it to solve the problems that India has? And for that, we need to become a nation of job creators, not just job seekers. So job seeking has helped us so far. Our ITS industry has grown to a $180 billion industry. And that is great, because it is servicing the needs of many countries across the world. But now it is time for us, whatever brought us here will not take us far unless we become an innovative entrepreneurial country, unless we create millions of job creators and entrepreneurs in our country. And it is very possible, because India, none of the Indian students lack for any intellectual capability as compared to anyone in the world. You and I have traveled across the world, and we have seen our Indian engineers, our scientists, our doctors, our teachers, they're all doing so brilliantly in the United States. You have a Satya Nadella heading Microsoft, you have a Sundar Pichai heading Google, you have Alok Kohri leading Dell. So we have wonderful people who are capable of rising to their full potential when they are provided an ecosystem of entrepreneurship. And that is what the Atal Innovation Mission initiatives are, to create that ecosystem through tinkering labs, through incubators, through community innovation centers, through the Atal New India challenges, through the Arise challenges for the MSME industry. We are throwing challenges, and every challenge is an opportunity to become entrepreneurial. Now, if you want to become entrepreneurial, you need a certain mindset shift in the way not only you think, but your teachers also think, your parents also think, society also thinks. India has been a risk-averse society in general, because we had a lot of problems earlier. But today, technology has advanced. We are one of the fastest growing economies of the world. We have venture capital and financial instruments which can support innovation. So no other time in the history of our country has been better than now for everybody to aspire to become an entrepreneur or an innovator. And this entrepreneurial mindset requires 5 or 6 very important things. Number one, you should be curious about what are the problems that one can solve. Because with curiosity comes the identification of the problem. And with the identification of the problem comes your idea for an innovation. Because what is innovation? Innovation is you always actually look at what is there, what can be improved on that, or what is something new that can be done which is not there. This is what is going to lead to an innovation. And innovation, you always ride on the shoulders of giants. Innovation is slightly different from invention or discovery. The basic research is all about exploring, let us say, physics or chemistry laws or the astronomy and space and so on and so forth. In innovation, you apply a whole lot of technology that is available to you now, and see how you can apply this technology to create an improvement in the situation that you are seeing. And we have so many situations in our country. Like I said, how do we make all the cities smart? How do we prevent this urban migration? In COVID-19, so many people have migrated to the 8 tier 1 cities. But we want people to be actually in the many hubs of innovation. And these 100 smart cities which have been identified by the government, they can all become hubs of innovation. So to become an entrepreneur, you should first be very active in seeking a problem. Then you should see what is the solution for the problem. The third thing you have to see is how can you use technology to solve the problem, because technology is getting integrated into everything: man, machine, device, IoT, augmented virtual reality, collaborative technologies. It is all there. So if you don't use technology, then you are worse off. Now, you may still come up with an innovation, but it will not be the optimal one. And so you have to have the knowledge of technology. You have to also you should dream big if you want to become an entrepreneur. Abdul Kalam said, dream big and you'll achieve great things. Dream small and you'll be limited by your own dreams. So we should dream big, and every entrepreneur should dream big, and he should not allow the word failure to ever come in his vocabulary, because the word fail is the first attempt in learning. And an entrepreneur's world is full of attempts in learning until he reaches success point. And even in success, there is learning. See, when Steve Jobs, he was dismissed away from Apple. He was taken away from Apple, the company that he founded. But that failure spurred him on to his next venture. And then he came back and he became one of the biggest successes in the world, one of the biggest innovators in the world. So that he never allowed that failure to deter him. So in a entrepreneur's world, the word fail should never be there. It is always learning. The entrepreneur should learn to work in teams. Without a team, you will not be able to create great solutions. And then the entrepreneur has to see what is unique about my approach or my solution or my way of going towards the market or my way of organizing things. Because unless there is some uniqueness, he or she cannot differentiate between. Competition is very fast, is very large. You have lots of competition. So you have to differentiate from the competition. And finally, an entrepreneur's success is always totally aligned with the success of some aspect of society benefiting from it. If society doesn't benefit from it, then the entrepreneur doesn't succeed too much. And if you see, take for example, social innovation. We talk about social innovation. Take Khan's Academy, which is very famous now. Salman Khan, the guy who, not our actor, but the guy who has created that online tutorial. I mean, he created a solution for his nephew or niece on YouTube, and see where that has taken him. Now you have people from all over the world pouring money into his foundation to boost this online learning and online tutorials and so on. So money will follow. The idea has to have an impact, and an entrepreneur should always see how to make an impact. And if he develops all these mindsets with all the skills that we talked about, then he is going to be successful. He or she is going to be very successful in his journey. So, but you raised a very important thing, and that is, the importance of partnership, how Dell and we have worked together and so on. From your point of view, how important is developing partnerships in the entrepreneurial world? And what are Dell's views on how they would like to collaborate further? I mean, you have been collaborating with the government on various initiatives, but I am very thankful that you are collaborating with Atal Innovation Mission in a very focused manner. What are your views on how you can take this collaboration further to the next level, and your suggestions on that?
Well, that's a great question again. Let me say this, that look, when it comes to our engagement in the market, it is solely and wholly dictated and driven by our mission. So Dell Technologies' mission is to technologically enable human progress. And when it comes to human progress, it cuts across every aspect of life, work, and the environment that we all live in. Now, bringing it down to today's topic that we have about education, I personally believe that when it comes to the area that would have the maximum impact by bringing in technology in building the nation, any nation for that matter, and more so in the context of India, it is education. So education is a natural choice for Dell Technologies in India to be associated with, to be building partnerships and collaborations with, so that we impact the communities in which we live and work. Having said that, you're absolutely right. Our collaboration with Niti Aayog is very intense, very deep, very broad as well. And it has, over a period of time, got nurtured from both the sides. There is a whole lot of understanding from Niti Aayog as well as from Dell Technologies as to what's required in the changing environment to be brought into these Atal Tinkering Labs, as well as a whole lot of other initiatives that are being run under the umbrella of Atal Innovation Mission. Now, in the recent past, we have also seen that inclusion of some of the latest technologies like AL, ML, IoT, and a whole lot of stuff to do with regards to the newer technology that is coming in the space of automation, robotics included. It's going to be very, very helpful for building the right skill sets amongst our students who are going to be the future of this nation. Having said that, that's the partnership that we have with Niti Aayog under the Atal Innovation Mission umbrella. I talked about ATLs, Atal Tinkering Labs. We have 146 of them. I also talked about how we have gone and extended our engagement through the new program that has been launched on the eve of Swami Vivekananda's birthday, which is called Nai Dishaएं Naya Nirman program. Now, under that program, we are trying to see if we can encourage more and more schools to become the part of ATL journey. Of course, the focus is towards the underserved community when it comes to ATL schools, and it definitely is going to help a whole lot of our community folks with regards to what comes out as innovation from there. But it's also not limited only to that. So to that extent, there is a handbook that has been created, a guiding document, if I can call it, that has been created, which is being circulated across to all the educational institutes and through the state government machinery, the whole of state government schools as well. I talked about earlier about student entrepreneurship program. I talked about student internship program. All of those are extensions of the collaboration and partnership that we have with Niti Aayog. We have also, in the last decade or so, been extensively involved in what we call it as youth learning program. Now, under the aegis of this youth learning program, we have adopted 2,800 schools across the country. Now, that has touched almost like 600,000 kids so far. And I'm absolutely looking forward to seeing that expanding over a period of time and translating that into a whole lot of benefit for the country in terms of a very, very educated and very ready workforce. We also have 100+ learning centers across the country that we have adopted. And we are very, very committed to looking at many more similar kind of partnerships and collaborations with like-minded corporate entities who would like to bring the force together, join our force together, and make it a very big push in the market. I think the scale and the size of the country demands partnership and collaboration. One entity on its own cannot really solve the need of this country when it comes to education. And it is in that context, we are looking forward to many more such collaborations and partnerships with the government entities and also with other peer group companies that we have in the country.
That's wonderful. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so Ramanan, actually there is a very, I talked about how partnership and collaboration is important. One area that we really got excited, which we heard that you personally are pushing very hard is the gaming platform. I've heard a lot about it. It'd be great if you can share your perspective about what's all about this gaming platform and how is it going to really help the country in the long run.
So thanks, Alok. And I think you touched upon quite a few things which are very important. And I just want to highlight a few things that you said earlier. One is, having a community impact. A technology should be used to have community impact, and this community impact we are talking about the educational community here, and the educational community stretches across the length and breadth of our country. And so it is very important for us to have all these. It is only partnerships which can help in the success of any initiative. If the government unit goes alone and tries to do everything, that's not going to succeed. If the private sector also tries to do things on their own, that's not going to be enough. So when government, industry, academia, and government come together, and actually in this COVID-19 crisis, one of the biggest learnings I'm having is that this is a watershed movement in our history, where government, academia, and private industry and other institutions are coming together so strongly. And in my view, this is like the Y2K moment. Y2K, you remember in the year 2000, suddenly the world woke up to the possibilities of India and what India can do in the IT world to the rest of the world. Because Y2K was that gateway by which you opened a floodgate of possibilities, and the world came to know that this is the possibility from India. The same way, this particular crisis, as I am seeing it, is going to be a watershed moment for innovation and entrepreneurship. Suddenly, the private sector, the government, the academia, they're all coming together, and they're getting exposed to the tremendous number of innovations that are coming up from the startups. They are a nation of 30,000 startups. And so, that itself is a great thing. But some positive outcomes and solutions coming out of it. Recently, more than 1,500 solutions came out of this startup community for addressing COVID problems. And these are challenges which we are facing now: preventive, assistive, curative solution. And so now coming back to your point about the gaming platform, I think this is one of the best things that has happened in this COVID-19 times. We actually launched what is known as Tinker from Home modules, because we saw all our children are at home, and many of them actually tinkering lab students said, "Sir, can we do anything even while we are at home?" And so we all got together and we said that we will be launching a series of Tinker from Home modules. And we first launched the artificial intelligence module, AI module, Learn It Yourself. And this is in partnership with NASSCOM and a number of companies, in which Dell also played a role. And we launched this module just before the lockdown started. But during the lockdown, we created a number of YouTube sessions so that people can systematically understand and learn artificial intelligence themselves. At the same time, we started interacting. I mean, just some time back, last time when I had visited Bangalore, we had already talked about, can we introduce a gaming module for the students? And the gaming module came to our rescue wonderfully during, because the gaming module is how do you convert, every one of us, whether we are young or whether we are old, student or elderly, we all love to play video games, computer games, and so on. And everybody, you see, if they have some spare time, even in a library or in a plane, they are playing some games. But can we convert our young student from a game player to a game maker? And that was possible through this gaming modules. So we have worked along with Dell as well as Learning Link Foundation, and together we have come up with this gaming module. There are two modules which have been introduced. One is a basic module using Scratch as the tool for developing and understanding games. And the second is in the second module, which is the intermediate module. We have introduced Construct, and Construct is a tool that you use for developing 2D video games and so on. Now, this has had a resounding response from all the students who have got access to the games. And not only have the Atal Tinkering Lab students got access to it, but the entire community of schools have got access to it, because we put it on our website and said anybody who wants to learn about gaming is free to learn about it. Now, why is gaming so important? Because if you look at learning anything, when you learn it through a game, you learn it much better. The visual aspect of the game, you learn to make choices, decision making. You become very creative. If when you're playing a game itself, you become creative because you want to win the game. But if you're creating a game, then you need to provide the user who is going to play your game with a lot of choices, and your creativity skills come to the fore. You need to have creativity skills. You need to have graphic design skills. You need to have certain programming skills using modules like Scratch, which is not very difficult to learn. You need to have a story to tell, maybe through the game. You want to make it interesting at every point as you play the game. You want an element of suspense. So you need to have good scripting skills, good storytelling skills, good communication skills. All of this becomes very important. And games are not just for entertainment, but today games are a big source of learning. Let's say you want to learn a very complex concept like DNA. You can actually play a game and see how DNA can be split. What is a DNA? What is an RNA? How today genetics is being understood. And the other day I saw a game which explained it in such a simple manner. And you play that game and you understand all the basics of gene splicing, CRISPR, and so on and so forth. So we want our young, innovative children to actually learn how to make games, and in the process, they can become great innovators and they can become very creative. And the gaming industry itself is a multi-billion-dollar industry. So those who have great further interest can even think of startups using games. So I'm very happy, Alok, with this tremendous support that we have got. And we are going to be launching another module soon, the advanced module. And with that, there will be 3 gaming modules which will be introduced to everybody. So,
sounds interesting. Sounds really interesting. Yeah.
Now, Alok, I wanted to ask you, one of the important thing is, we talk about innovation and everybody says, okay, we want to be job creators. But there is a social element of innovation. Okay. And unless innovation benefits both the economy as well as the society, we will just increase the digital divide. So from your point of view, how important is innovation to creating social impact? And what are some of the initiatives that Dell is doing in this area so that there is social good which comes out of entrepreneurship and out of innovation?
Yeah, so Dell gives back to communities wherever we live and work. That's something that we take very, very seriously. Our responsibilities towards the community is paramount in wherever we operate, and India is no exception. In fact, Archana Sahai, who's on this webinar, she leads the CSR for us in India and Asia Pacific, and she's super busy. I'm sure if you were to talk to her separately, she'll tell you. She has her hands, and she and her team actually have their hands and plates full, absolutely full, with whole lot of.
She responds to my queries within less than 15 minutes.
That shows the sensitivity we have towards giving and towards really contributing to the communities. I must also share with all of you that when it comes to our giving, when it comes to our social responsibility and impact to the communities, we have a great support coming in from our employee base in India. We, together with the employees, really try creating those contributions that are very meaningful for the communities around. And having said that, this is something that has been there as a culture, as a DNA of the organization for many, many years. And to that extent, we have been involved in many different ways in the communities around in India. We look at contributions in 3 different levels. At the highest level, it is company and the global giving, and that's like the company doing its bit to really, do things for the community that we operate in. And out there are a whole lot of programs that we include, including the collaboration that we have with ATL. We definitely contribute to charitable events, which help have an impact in different areas: education, innovation, and overall social impact, etc. Then comes the the employee engagement in the community. And that it is all about volunteerism. We encourage our employees to volunteer. And not just that, we actually have matching contributions coming in from the company to whatever contributions the employees are making, both in effort and financial terms. The third one, of course, is to take care of the efforts that go in from our foundation. So we have Dell Foundation in India that plays a very, very big role in many different areas, and it brings in impact not just across education, but also in the SME segment. So we believe that if we are contributing to the nation building exercise through education, through innovation, then at some point in time, these MSMEs also become extremely important. And a big piece of work happens through Dell Foundation there. So Ramlan, it's a very big area for us. It's a very big focus for us, and we will continue to remain very sincere and aligned to the thought that that's the way we can contribute to the community that we work in.
Excellent. I think it's very important whatever you shared, because it is so very important to give back to the community, and not only companies but also individuals giving back to the community, and you're facilitating both from a corporate point of view as well as allowing your employees to volunteer in mentoring and all the social activities, which are very important, because if you don't give them the time or the support that you are offering, then they also don't get incentivized, or they have to look upon this as an additional responsibility, whereas now they will look upon it as something that they would like to do.
In fact, I should share this with you. We have close to 70% participation from our employee base when it comes to volunteering.
Fantastic.
70%. That's more than 2/3 of our employees are engaged in activities which are having a social impact in the country.
Excellent.
So Alok and Mr. Ramanan, sorry to intervene. We just have last 10 minutes,
Okay.
and let's open the floor for Q&A from the audience. So Rahi, over to you.
Thank you, Archana, and thank you to the both of you for a very engaging discussion. We would like to start with a question which is aimed at both of you. What are some of the promising innovations in EdTech that you have seen during this pandemic? Mr. Ramanan, if you could start with you.
Okay. So, what has happened is there are a number of EdTech innovations which are coming up. Particularly, many schools have realized that, we don't know how long this COVID-19 situation is going to be there. And therefore, being able to avail themselves of online education, online assessment, online skill development, certifications, and so on. So these are all things that they are looking for, because they want to utilize their time usefully to be able to prepare themselves for the future. Also, if you see the EdTech market has many possibilities today. Many of our startups which are there, they're working on AI-based EdTech startup, so that you are able to assess based upon a student's record, what are some of the weaknesses he has, and how do we address that weakness through additional trainings or access to material or resources. Because what happens, you go through a class. Let's say, for example, you get 70% marks in maths. That's great. You have got a distinction in maths. But there are 30% marks which you have not got, where you have not been able to understand that particular concept. And what happens is, when you go to the next class, unless you are able to address that 30%, that multiplies its effect. And by the time you graduate from school, there is a substantial portion that you have never focused, because you keep getting your necessary 70% marks, and the 30% every year accumulates to a major thing. And this is where AI can come to the picture and say, hey, you have completed in this last 5 years, you have studied all of this, but there is this portion which you have repeatedly been neglecting. Maybe, for example, sometimes you say, oh, probability statistics, that is not area for me. I'll score all my marks in some other subject. But if you're going to do a PhD tomorrow, probability statistics is very important for you. And so that detection through AI and tools like that can help students address their gaps. Then another thing is on, like Baiju has become one of the biggest companies in a very short period of time. From 2000, I think they were set up in 2006 or 2007, and by now they are now being evaluated at $8 billion market cap. That is the sort of evaluation they've got, and they're a 2,800 crore company. And what did they do? They just use online technology for conducting tutorials, for studying your various classes and getting familiar with it. So there is huge possibility on collaborative tools, assessments tools, skill development tools, and so on. And many of our startups are engaged in all of that.
I think
Glory.
covered the points very comprehensively. I'd just like to add, over and beyond the AI piece, I think there's a lot of focus right now amongst the startups to look at the content creation. How can the content be made a lot more richer?
Correct.
So the use of technology like virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality, that's really taking the center stage of the content creation. And that I'm sure is going to really make a huge difference to the learning and the fun of learning, I would call
And
it.
the gaming technology.
And the gaming technology.
Yeah.
The second area that we are seeing, and it seems like a very promising area to see how it shapes up over a period of time. We have all gone through this. We have learned a whole lot of things in our formal education, journey. Class from one class to the other class, we picked up different concepts, etc. It's very tough to retain everything. So how do you have a digital footprint of all that you have learned and keep it in a consolidated form that you can refer to anytime, anywhere, as and when the need so arises? So there are many companies who are working in that space, trying to create a learning life cycle of an individual, which the individual can keep with herself or himself over a period of time. Lots exciting things happening, and robotics is the other area that we are seeing that is coming into this. So hopefully,
one of the biggest transformation, just to add, Alok, one of the biggest transformations post-COVID is going to be in education. And EdTech is going to play a very big role, not only in India, but any part of the world. And therefore, any solution that comes from here can have global application at any point.
Mr. Ramanan, the next question is for you. What is the role of good mentorship in cultivating a winner's mindset in our youth?
Oh, thank you very much for asking that question. And that's something I neglected.
That's very close to his heart.
Mentorship is very important because, first of all, a mentor is somebody who is volunteering his or her time, and they are professionally qualified, they are professionally accredited, they are either engineers or scientists or doctors, or it doesn't matter what they are, management professionals. What they are bringing to the table is the ability to be a friend and a guide, giving direction, not direction to a person, to a young student, a young innovator, and building an atmosphere of trust and not having anything else in mind, that I'm not going to be judging you, I'm going to be helping you on your journey. And because of this, we launched a search for mentors, because we knew that these new technologies are still not well understood by teachers in schools. These are all new for them. So we wanted to enlist the help of mentors, and to our surprise and to our very pleasant surprise, more than 10,000 mentors across the country registered onto our portal saying they want to be mentors. And they were all BTechs, masters, PhDs, professionals working in multinationals like in Dell or in other companies and so on. It was wonderful to see that. And now we have allocated more than 5,000 of them directly to Atal Tinkering Labs. And they are playing a wonderful role in the mentoring of young kids. Not only the mentoring of them, but also there is a certain element of mentoring a teacher or mentoring the school, because there is, at the end of the day, the mentor should work very closely with the ATL in charge to ensure that the ATL in charge would know about the students. The mentor will know about the subject. And so you bring these two together, and it has wonderful results, because of which, our entire adult tinkering lab movement, I think, is a big success because of the mentors.
I think we have time just for a very short answer to a last question. Mr. Ori, if you could tell us, how do we provide better employment to our youth in order to incentivize them and to minimize brain drain?
I think employment is all dependent on the right skills and capability that a candidate brings to the table. And I think this journey starts right during the preparation of the student for a future workforce. And to that extent, it is important that our education system also goes through a little bit of a transformation. I think Ramanan alluded to that point much earlier in the conversation, that we've been through a journey where it was all about job seeking, which is prepare yourself to be eligible for a job. But quite honestly, the skill sets that we have seen getting built through that education system were very relevant, were probably the right ones for the times that it was meant for. But going forward, we will have to see how we can change the curriculum to bring in a lot more relevancy to the preparedness and the capability that we see in the students who are coming out of our educational institutes. So to that extent, there has to be a shift that we need to bring in. Times are changing. Technology savviness is given. I mean, even if you don't understand everything about technology, but being savvy, being comfortable with technology is absolutely, absolutely critical. That's because technology is getting embedded into anything and everything. With massive advancement in IoT, with massive advancement in a whole lot of other technology that I talked about earlier, including the onslaught of 5G services that are going to come in very soon, there is going to be a need for everybody who's coming out of the institutes, the educational institutes, to be technologically savvy and having the right skills to be able to contest for a whole lot of opportunities that exist is going to be very, very critical.
Thank you, Mr. Ori. Thank you, Mr. Ramanan. Archana, if you could take over for the closing note.
Thank you all for being such a wonderful and interactive audience. Folks, stay tuned. We'll have many more such interesting content and webinar series. Till then, stay at home and take very good care of yourself and everyone around you. This is Archana Sahai signing off. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.